I know.
Recorder. Anyway.
Shoot me now.
Okay. Can I shoot you a song in the recorder? So you asked for it.
Created a monster here.
All righty. Here we go. And
Again.
yes, here we go again. I love that because I always say that. All right. So here we go again. Actually going to move this over. Take off the chat window so I
Same
can
here. Yeah.
see a little bit better and move you guys over just so I can have minutes. All right.
Yeah, see, what I've learned, Shannon, is that people with our complexion, we can't get too much monitor on us. So
Seriously.
I have flipped all the like my PDF reader, for example. It's got a black background, and I put dark mode on Zoom, so there's
that
not so
how-
much
How do you
that's-
do that?
That is actually smart.
That is very smart.
trial and error.
Yeah.
Clarence does not have this problem. He could probably still walk you through it.
Well, you and I have another problem that neither one of them have, which
Exactly.
is yes.
Yeah, well,
And you've done
that's
a
one of
very
my other
good.
computer things is that I have an overhead light in here, but I always turn that off.
Oh, that's smart because
So you
yes,
can't-
there's a very big difference there when you did that. All right, tips from the top of the head. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. The Discussing Network presents Discussing Who, a Doctor Who podcast. I am Kyle Jones, and I want to start by welcoming back Shannon Perry. Shannon, how are you?
I'm good. So happy to be back, even though you're going to make me cry again.
I'm not going to make you cry because you know why I'm not going to make you cry? I'm going to not make you cry, except maybe happy tears, because I can actually now refer to you as not only the writer-producer of Oz 9, but also a comic book writer. You are a writer of comic books,
Woo!
officially.
I can
Sort of.
discuss in comics.
Yes, a little double dipping there on the writing, but I'm good with that.
Hey, repurpose,
Nothing
right?
goes to waste. No.
Cheers.
Cool. Well, welcome back. We're glad, as always, to have you. Now we don't have to talk about you. We can just talk with you.
You know I'll listen to your show even if you don't say my name, right?
Indeed.
I really will.
Indeed. Well, I also want to welcome back someone who was not with us on last episode, and you were 1,000,001% missed, and that would be none other than Lee Shackelford.
I'm back.
Hello back. Welcome back. Glad to have you back.
And for people who are seeing this on the Zoom video, you can see my Batman phone blinking in the background, which means Commissioner Gordon is calling me, and I'm ignoring him for the duration of this call. So
Holy bat phone, Lee
Bad
Shackelford.
bat. Bad bat.
priorities, old chum. But then I also just gave the Vulcan salute, and I'm wearing my Tom Baker scarf. So I'm crossing the streams like crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a little confused on the Trek/Who/
Ghostbusters.
Batmobile.
60s
Yeah,
Batman.
exactly.
Anyway, but
Well-
yeah, I just couldn't get it together for last week, so I missed it too. But I look forward to hearing it. So
Well, I will say that, you may have could not have gotten it together for last week, but for the gentleman who is not yet together for this week, because he is so excited about next week, for anyone watching the video, seeing the audacity of Clara this soon into The Angels Take Manhattan. Welcome back, Clarence Brown.
Hey, man, glad to be back. And, as we record this episode for our listeners / viewers, yeah, I am excited to talk about this episode, man.
even
This
though
is-
Jenna Coleman is not in it,
No.
Yeah, makes me sad.
Yeah.
But she's so close, I think you can smeller. If that's probably not the best way to say that. It sounded better in my head.
If I were only that lucky, let's be honest.
Fair.
I think she smells like gingerbread cookies.
Or soufflés.
Souffle, yeah.
Well, I will say this is weird for me because I'm looking at people and not looking at my notes, and this is really, really weird, but it's fun at the same time because I'm seeing smiling faces. That's fun. So we do have a little bit of news that I want to go into, and I've already mentioned, Shannon, some news from you, but I will officially say for anyone who's listened to us talk about and hasn't heard us say, the Oz9 Kickstarter was a complete success, and Oz9 comic is in production even as we speak. So woohoo!
Yay. Very excited. Very
So
excited.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you just had a live event too for some of your patrons.
Yes, we did. We had a live read through, which was very fun. And the artist even showed up. Lucas Elliott, who is
Yes.
awesome, showed up briefly and tempted us all with yet more treats. So,
As well as the musician who also showed up,
yep,
which
yep.
was
Sam
awesome.
Shaley, it's awesome.
It was really everybody, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
What was really cool to me about that was seeing the people quickly change their voices. Loved watching Bonnie go back and forth between and Eric going back and forth. That was a treat in itself.
And Bonnie even once forgetting that she was supposed to be Jessie and trying to be Donna, and
Yes.
being stuck in that mode. So
Yeah, you can usually hear her whisper, Jesse, Jesse, to get back into it.
she's Scottish.
Well, I will tell you what no one will forget is Lee and Clarence. I can say congratulations to you guys. And Lee, I'll point this to you. You guys have been like reaping the awards for relativity. Most recently, you were in the telly or received a telly. And I'm not talking television. So Lee,
Right.
elaborate.
It's very weird to me how it's like the rest of the world is still trying to figure out what to make of podcasts. Because if you go to IMDb, if you look me up on IMDb, you'll find that one of my TV shows is Relativity. Well, Relativity is not a TV show. But we won an Ava Digital Award, which is an award designed for video. And now Elena and I, God bless her for putting our names in the hat. Yeah, we were honored with a telly for vocal performances. So that's Sophia and Chris tipping their hats. Yeah, but it's the Telly Award. It just, anyway.
I just like
there
the
are.
name of it.
Yeah,
You
there
know?
are legit podcasting awards, but anyway.
Yeah, well, maybe somebody out there knows something you don't.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
you're going to be a television show soon.
maybe so.
Yeah, maybe
Well,
you
you
got
know,
lost in a wibbly wobbly moment.
I said that to somebody not too long ago, talking about how expensive and difficult it would be to make a film or TV show of Relativity. And this is somebody who works in film and TV. And they said, actually, it wouldn't be that hard. I said, really?
You have two major sets, actually,
That's it.
for
I
the
said,
most
really?
part. Spoilers, but
Yeah, but yeah.
yeah,
So-
right.
I mean, I think one of them would be insanely complicated, but the other one really is pretty straightforward.
You know, a wise gentleman once said, I remember something to the effect, and I'm of course talking about you, that you can just take the same corridor and shoot at different angles and make different things. So
It's true.
lighting, angles, whatever.
That's how
Are
we
you
get away with
listening,
making
Netflix?
well, yeah. That's how you get away
Hollywood.
with making an Oz 9 film or TV show, because it's been established in story that all the corridors look the same and you can't tell which one's which. So,
And
I did it to make it cheap.
and if everything looks like cardboard set up, blame it on G2.
that's
There you
right.
go.
That also makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Well, that's the bit of news that I have. We do have one thing of feedback that I want to share. This actually came in about 5 days ago and unfortunately got picked up by the spam filters. And I just saw this earlier today which is from a gentleman by the name of Michael from Toronto, Canada. And he emails talking about both Discussing Who and a shout out to Discussing Trek. He says that, let's see, it says, I must say that you have brought these shows to life for me. I found your podcast when Discovery started and made the episodes, and this made the episodes so much more enjoyable. I would find myself wondering what you each would say about certain things as I was watching them. It was through Discussing Trek and your mentioning of Doctor Who, cool, that I bought all seasons and started watching. I love it so, and I'm happy to have found Discussing Who. But I need you to make more podcasts as I am starting on season 6, and I see you have just started to review season 7. I don't want to catch up with you and watch an episode without listening to all of you on the very next day. And thank you for not adding too many spoilers, as this is my first watching. Thank you all again, Michael from Toronto.
Wow.
Oh,
Awesome.
that's fabulous.
Thank
Sweet.
you, Michael.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Very,
I'm
very
waiting.
cool.
I'm waiting on my kickback from BBC on that one. That's
There you go.
where's my product code?
See, that's what I get for constantly finding a way to insert Doctor Who into Discussing Trek. So, see, I have a purpose.
Yeah.
All right, well, everyone, do you have anything else before we get into why we are here?
You know, you asked me last week if I wanted to say anything about Hulanta. Since I haven't heard it yet, what did you do instead?
What do you mean, what did I do instead?
What did you say about Hulanta last week?
Oh dear, I don't remember. I just think probably that I said something about Lee Shackelford was wonderful.
Okay, that's
you
what I was
remember?
going to say. So.
Clarence, do you remember?
I can't quite remember either. Yeah.
But I think that's what I said.
Doesn't matter. But if you go to there, I would like to say that if you go to Facebook and search for Hulanta 2020, well, for any of them, in fact, for the any of the virtual ones in the last 2 years, all the videos are there. So you can still participate. You can still check those things out, including the panel that I was on. But yeah. Interview with Michelle Gomez, for example, which is very strange, even though it's a great interview, but the video is really out of sync. So enjoy the video and enjoy the audio. Just don't expect
Don't
to
enjoy them together.
Anyway, there are lots of other things. They're just it becomes a cornucopia of videotaped, zoomed Doctor Who goodness. So there you go.
Even though I don't remember what I said, I will say it again just for the sake of saying. Even if I didn't say it, I'll say it for the first time, which was you represented us very well, and kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you. That was a good panel.
It was a good panel. All right, so I think it's time to get into the reason why we are here, and I think that it would be so appropriate for me to say at this point, if you have not seen The Angels Take Manhattan, put us on pause, go out, watch the episode, come back, because from this moment forward, Richard Nadolny. I couldn't resist.
I think he's showing off the T-shirt there, but I couldn't tell what it was. So.
What was the T-shirt? Tell us. I got to know.
I think it's the narrator out T-shirt that he's wearing today.
Hmm.
No, which one was it? I didn't see.
Sweet.
Oh, it's the one with all the superheroes on it.
Okay.
Ah, sweet. Cool.
He's on the wrong podcast. Tell him.
Yeah.
Well,
Go
speaking
away.
of,
Come back. We're discussing.
spoilers. Spoilers. He will be. But anyway, all right. Let me do my spoiler warning real quick. See everyone listening on video how much fun we have behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Or watching on video. All right. So if you have not seen The Angels Take Manhattan, put us on pause. Go out. Watch the episode. Come back because from this moment forward, spoilers. Alrighty, the spoiler warning has gone out, and we are back to review The Angels Take Manhattan. This was the 5th episode of the 2012-2013 series of Doctor Who, first airing on the 29th of September 2012. It starred Alex Kingston as Professor River Song and features Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor and the departures of Karen Gillan as Amelia Pond and Arthur Darvill as Rory Williams. It also marks the fall finale of Series 7. So summary view, ladies first. Shannon Perry, what
I
do
never
you
know what
think?
the summary view is supposed to be.
It's whatever you
What is
want
this
it to
bit?
be. This is your summation of what you
Gotcha.
think in a nutshell.
Okay. I love this episode. Love this episode. It makes me cry. As a child, when I watched classic Doctor Who as a kid, I do not remember weeping at so many episodes. Like, I don't remember weeping ever. Possibly when Peter Davison left, because he was cute. But I really don't remember bawling. And so many episodes of the current Doctor Who since the restart, it's, I seem to spend a lot of time in tears. But it's a great episode. It's a wonderful episode. And the performances are amazing. There's just so many great scenes in this.
Awesome. Clarence Brown, what say you?
Everything Shannon said. It was a wonderful episode, and man, the performance by Arthur Darvill in this episode is so amazing. So if you just come for that, you'll have plenty to leave with, because he just shows out. I didn't really expect that. Again, like I said on every episode, this is probably only my second time seeing this one, and just so many tidbits that I didn't remember. Things that Cal has been hinting at this entire season. Well, what are you talking about? Kind of came to fruition in this episode as well. So I loved every minute of it. Great episode.
Lee Shackelford.
I think I said on the show a couple of weeks ago that I'm not looking forward to this because I don't like this episode. I haven't seen it since it aired, and it's really made me rethink what was going on in my life in 2011, 2012. That was a difficult, challenging, complex time in my life. And I don't think I was in the frame of mind then to watch this episode and appreciate it, because I watched it 4 times in the last week, saying, what an amazing hour of Doctor Who this is. I still know what one of my big beefs with it was, but this is brilliant. So can't wait to talk more about it.
So you don't know how, and I'm so glad we're on video, because you do not understand how relieved I am to hear you say that. Because I have been so trepidatious about tonight, thinking, what is it that Lee doesn't like about this? And finding, the root of to what he doesn't like, because you've seen it 4 times in the past week. Shannon, how many times have you seen it?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. Clarence has seen it twice. I don't want to talk about it because I've probably seen it hundreds of times.
I was just sitting here watching it before we went on, and I was like, oh, great. Now he wants to videotape it because my eyes are all puffy from crying again.
I will say that I have not seen it probably since we started reviewing these in order. So in the last couple of years, I haven't seen it because I wanted to go into it fresh, with a little bit of distance. But I know this episode. I didn't need to make notes about this episode. I know this episode, but I love this episode. There is something in it that just kind of doesn't work for me, and I'm thinking it's probably what Lee is going to say, but I loved this episode. All right, so Clarence, I want to point something to you. You have gone on record as saying the Weeping Angels are one of your favorite New Who or Doctor Who creatures, bad guys, whatever. What do you think of the way they were used in this story overall? Thoughts?
Well, they're certainly essential to this very timey-wimey story. Didn't feel as menacing in this episode for some reason, but definitely the way they're used and how we travel through time with them being the main antagonist. I really felt all of that worked really well. Yeah. Anytime they're on screen, I'm happy. It definitely made me think a lot about Blink in this episode as well. So yeah, I enjoyed them on screen. It was really great. Again, not really all that menacing, but there were some scary moments in there as well. So, even from the jump, when we see the little kid in the window with his with his hands over his eyes, and then we flip to the weeping angel that does kind of the same thing. It just, yeah, I was after all of that, I was ready to see what would happen in this episode. So yeah, they were great.
All right, guys, what for the rest of us, what do you think? How about the weeping angels? Did they work for you?
I thought the weeping cherubs were amazing, like the little giggling thing. No,
the baby
so,
angels.
so awful. Yeah, so that was cool. I don't know that I was totally okay with so many different statues being pulled into being angels. Like the mother son
Yes.
was a little weird. Like that, she's not a weeping angel to me. Like that one didn't quite work, but I get why it was interesting and scary and fun to do. But I love the cherubs.
Can you expand on that one? Maybe I didn't catch that. Was that like some art piece I just didn't know about?
It's outside the Gray. Is his name Grail? It's out.
Yeah.
He looks out the window, and there's a mother and son statue. I think it's mother and son.
Oh, got you.
Yeah, and then he looks back again, and it's just the son, and he just kind of goes, "Oh,
Okay.
that's weird," and closes the window like, "Oh,
He's gone.
disappearing statue."
And ultimately, they're the ones that come at the end to kill him.
To get him.
Yeah. And I guess we have to mention the biggest of them all. I'll let Lee go, but that was the weird part to me. That's the one I really wasn't all that too comfortable with. But go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, go for it. Take
It is interesting that in this story, we get to see weeping angels that aren't angels. That apparently they are now transmuting somehow statues all over Manhattan
Yeah.
into. So that's why the mother and son can both be angels, why the cherubs can be angels, while the three cherub faces that Rory walks past in Central Park, then we can look back and one of them is missing now. So all those things are happening, including the Statue of Liberty, and that is the thing that I remember from seeing it before and thinking that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I decided I hate this episode. So I have to back up on that because that's not enough to sink the whole episode on, but it's still a stupid idea.
Yes, agreed.
If only because I got several reasons why I think that's a stupid idea, and I bet lots of people agree with me. But the main thing isn't one of the core rules of how weeping angels work is that they are immobilized if anybody's looking at them.
Correct.
When is nobody looking at the Statue of Liberty?
Correct.
When
Would
does
walking
nobody be
around.
looking? Yes, a walking around Statue of Liberty.
right? Nobody's looking at it.
Right,
Right.
right.
No.
But I
I'll
don't think
buy
we're supposed to
anything fantastic
care.
on this show as long as the logic is consistent. That's just all. Anyway.
But I think the idea here, and yes, I agree with you 1,000,000%, but I think the idea here was the emotional undertones overweighed or outweighed or whatever the logic.
Mm-hmm.
Here.
But one of the things that I think Moffat does brilliantly is that he can do both, and that usually he keeps logic consistent and plays the emotional moments and through lines perfectly as well. So it's just a surprise when he just sort of lets one sort of fall off the edge like that. There's a line of dialogue that's in the same category that I want to bring up later if we're going to kind of go chronologically here, but.
Now, we can jump around anywhere we want because I'm about to talk about Melanie Malone. So you tell
Okay.
me what
You
were you
should,
going?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, but later on, the doctor says the reason why there's so many weeping angels there, he says they've never had a food source like this, the city that never sleeps. And when I was watching it through like the third time this week, I thought for the first time, wait, what? They've never
exactly
had
the
a
wrong
food
idea.
source. The
But
perfect
if-
place for the angels would be a city where everybody sleeps, wouldn't it?
Well, not necessarily, because if they are, if they're sending you back to the same place over and over and over, they're constantly feeding off of you. So if you have a city that doesn't have a sleep cycle, meaning that there's going to be people up at 10, 2, 4, 6, they never have, like where you go to small town Mississippi and people are asleep from 12 p.m. I mean, or
Right.
12 p.m.
Roll up the sidewalks.
You know,
Yeah.
you get my point, and there's millions of people there. So
Well, we're more vulnerable when our eyes are closed, though, right?
We're certainly not
True.
looking at them.
true.
So
Yeah.
Logic broke.
anyway,
Yeah.
it's a throwaway line. It doesn't matter. But
No, I agree. That totally doesn't make any sense. I mean, shouldn't all of Earth just be your stomping ground? I mean, yeah.
So I guess the question is, when does an angel become an angel? And in the sense of being awakened as the angel, do you have to look at them first before they activate, which then is a whole different episode within itself, because that just kind of leads you down this weird narrative. And speaking of narratives, I'm curious to know what you guys thought of this idea of using a book, Melody Malone, that they're reading in New York. What did you think? Clarence, I'll let you start with this one. What did you think?
I liked the idea, but the more we got into the episode, I started to hate it. And it is not. I really like how the story progressed, where we're looking into this book for tidbits of the current situation. You know, we have the doctor saying that don't read too far ahead. All of that landed well once we get to those points, but it just felt like the book and the statements the doctor was making around the book kind of plays with the whole idea of the fixed point in time too much, because it just seems like we always change those rules to where they're most convenient. So we can't read ahead because we're going to know exactly what's happened, which I guess that does happen in this episode. It happens exactly as the book says, but I don't know. I just feel like we play with this fixed point in time too much. In some episodes we can break it, in some we can't. But as far as the book being a part of that, I thought all of that was brilliant. I thought that was brilliant, and even to find out that this is a real book that you can go and buy, made it even more cool. So yeah, I like that idea.
Shannon, what did you think?
I got a little confused by what book we were working on, because there's the sort of noir book at the beginning, and then Melody's book, that's the one that Amy is reading. So what happened to the first one, and how do they
Yeah.
connect, or do they?
I wondered about that too. That it is a noir mystery, and there's this detective Garner and Mr. Grail, who turns out to be a real person.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, why is Garner in there? Did that really happen? Is that what
Right.
River's
Right.
telling us that
Right.
that?
See,
I wasn't clear on that either.
I think we need to read the book. Here's how I took it. I took it as Melody. The book starts the narrative of the story of him. So we're seeing a scene out of the book, and it's saying, he's writing this book, and she ultimately picks up after the angel takes him. That's how I saw the story. Because think about it, this narrative comes from River's point of view, writing this story to get them to the point of reading the book. So the book didn't per se happen. So I took it as that we're visually seeing something that was happening within the book,
Within River's book.
within River's book. That's how
Yeah.
my
Okay,
brain
that makes sense.
linked the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she can't have written it yet because she doesn't know how it ends.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Got it.
Correct. Until she writes the book.
It all gets very tangled up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of tangles, this is kind of an odd non sequitur perhaps, but at one point the doctor says something about I can never bring the TARDIS back to New York because the timelines are too tangled.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Could he just like park the TARDIS in New Jersey and take the train? Like, is that allowed or does that not work? How far away?
It is. It's the plot hole most often asked about this episode. Because I have certainly many people have asked this question.
Seriously?
Why can't
Okay.
you just land in New Jersey?
Or even like go in 1939, maybe skip a few years in there, see how they're doing.
That's it.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, but no, boo-hoo, we're locked off from Amy and Rory forever. Yeah, and the rest of us said, but we've been to the
Why?
50s. Why? Let's just go see them 12 years later.
Right. No, well, and River must have something to do with them because she sends her book to Amy to be published, right?
Yep.
Right.
So somehow they're still connected.
Well, she's got the time vortex. So see, he can't take the TARDIS, but she's got the vortex. But she could still mail it to herself.
Yeah, I
she
was
could
gonna
go
say,
back
can I
to
borrow your watch?
1935. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
No.
I get it, but they made such a point of him saying, I can never bring the TARDIS back here again. And I thought, well, okay, go to like park it in Chicago and take a plane. Like how big is this problem? But yeah.
It doesn't hold up. It is a logical hole in this. It's
But
But
now
I-
she doesn't take it to her. She says, "This book I'm supposed to write, Melody Malone. This book I'm supposed to write, Melody Malone. I suppose I'm to send it to Amy to get it published." So she sends it.
Right.
She mails it. However,
right.
Yeah.
so
To be honest, the writing is so good and the emotional roller coaster that you're on is so good that none of this stuff
Yeah.
really appears until you've watched it a few times.
exactly.
Enjoy it.
So
No, I've
what-
often said I feel like that's a test of good science fiction and fantasy. If you're in the parking lot walking away from the theater before you say, "Hey,
Wait a minute.
So what about the paradox? And we're talking about the fixed point. And Lee and Shannon, this is more for you guys than than Clarence and I, because I want to get your writer perspectives on it. This idea of using a paradox, you can kind of get out of jail free card with it. You can do pretty much anything you want, but at the flip of that, do you write yourself into a hole by giving yourself a get out of jail free card? So is it like, are you having your cake and eating it too, or what do you think?
Yeah, a thing I think you can only get away with a limited number of times. And you have to be clever about it, right? I mean, we accept it in this kind of thing because the writing is so good and the performances are so good that it just doesn't ruin the story. At least it doesn't for me. Like I'm one of those people who doesn't sit down and logic things through like you guys do anyway. So, but yeah, for me, I think that there's an acceptable number of times before you really can't do that anymore.
right." Yeah, if we did this every week, then yeah. But and in story terms too, it seems to me that this works because the cost of using the paradox is so high. Two of our characters will have to die to make it work. That's why I'm willing to buy it.
And one thing I will add, and pointing back to something Clarence said earlier, one of the problems, and I guess not problem, but one of the thoughts I had about the fixed moment and going back and not giving away any spoilers for anyone who's not seen ahead, but the Doctor chooses at some point to alter fixed moments. Specifically, coming up in Series 7, there's a big fixed moment that the Doctor decides that they will alter.
Yeah.
And so,
Biggest.
the biggest moment. So, sometimes he does play with that. However, let me say this. This was something that I'd never thought about until I started going through in review mode. Maybe part of the paradox that happens and the reason that they can't go back, specifically, remember, Doctor and Amy tried to go back and then they got sent to the graveyard the first time. And then they had to go back again and try to get through. Maybe the paradox existed because Amy and Rory were already back there a second time as the Amy and Rory that goes back at the end of the story. So you've got a Rory there, you've got another Rory there, and you've got another Amy trying to come in. You see what I'm saying? So maybe the reason we have this distortion is because the ones that we know that disappear at the end were already there at the beginning. We just don't know that yet. Wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then great foreshadowing by putting us in the cemetery each time they tried is pulling those heartstrings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually standing right next to that headstone every time they talk about it, and it's finally Rory who takes a step back and sees what it says on it.
And that creates the fixed moment, seeing the name.
Right. Once you know it's true.
Apparently.
So, I know we're not trying to go chronological, but there's something sort of at the very beginning that I wanted to bring up that I think is really interesting.
All right, go for it.
I kept being puzzled by it. Moffat has decided to name this building Winter Quay. And so there's a giant neon sign on top of it that has QUA on it. And that is a British term that we just don't use over here. And I know that New York was a English city before it was American, but the building is called Winter Quay, QUA,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Did that strike you the same way? It's like, is that a rare moment of American tone deafness of not realizing that we don't say that, or
I thought so. Yeah. I had the same feeling. It's like, how many Americans would be like, Quay?
Hello, me. That's hello. Because it was this episode, listening to it with earbuds, that I realized it was Winter Quay, not Winter Quay, as I've been saying for the past 12 years or however many long.
and if it makes you feel any better, in Australia they say it both ways. So.
Okay, well, good.
Right.
But yeah, it's the dock side. We would say wharf or pier or dock or something like that. But yeah, we don't say quay. But anyway, I noted an obscure pun, so obscure that it's probably unintentional, like the key thing. But the doctor says that the building, the Winter Quay, is a charging station for the Angels. It's basically a big battery. Well, that part of New York where they indicate this building is called the battery. For the artillery that used to be there. So they're actually in the battery.
Oh, I bet that's intentional.
It's pretty obscure joke, but
I don't know. That's pretty clever. That's pretty clever.
Anyway.
Nice. Can I ask a question?
You most certainly may. Go for it.
And this may not be the time for it, so let me know if it's not. But in an episode that you guys were talking about not too long ago, there was a mention of how much you didn't like the doctor saying to River, "You embarrass me."
Yes.
Did we just see the reverse of that?
Yes,
And
I
which
loved
one?
it.
Which one came first? That one came first, right?
That one came first because
Yeah,
in
that was
her
at the pyramids.
timeline,
Yeah.
she has to go on a date in her timeline. Where she goes next is a date that lasts a long time with the doctor, and then she has to go to a library. So this is very far along in her timeline. So yes, that she's basically giving back to him what he gave to her. So,
Okay. Because then I heard that, I thought, wait a minute, we just heard that not too long ago. I remember you guys talking about it.
Well, there's a lot of book ending in this episode, and I feel like that's deliberate. A lot of things that get repeated. I'm changing the future. It's called marriage. That gets said twice, and things like that.
So let's use that, what you just said, because that's my next talking point. Rory's decision, Rory's sacrifice. And Clarence, I want to ask you, what did you think of Rory, the man who dies over and over, deciding he's going to die again?
But only this time, the one he's been dying for chooses to die with him. Wow. So amazing. And just the speech, I wish I had it written down, but the speech he gives, I mean, Arthur Darvill was just showing out on that scene on the ledge. I'm like, wow, he is really digging deep with this. It's just amazing.
So
And
good.
again, like you say, he's just always willing to make that sacrifice for his woman, his lady. So
Mhm.
really, really great. And I kind of like how they showed the whole transition of when they actually go through with it. It felt sort of like the Back to the Future thing. When we see the paradox play out, we didn't have to see them or hear them. It kind of just fades as we know the inevitable is going to happen, and we just transition to them waking up. So, but yeah, of course, I mean, always willing to make the sacrifice. And Lee, you're always talking about how awesome Arthur Darvill is acting, and I mean, I think this is just like some of the best stuff we've seen him do.
And
Yeah.
we keep referencing the music. Remember when we were going to the Asylum of the Daleks and they have that scene that you guys didn't like where, and Lee, I know you especially didn't like it, where you have Amy and Rory having this divorce and she's being so rude to him, etc. and so forth. The music that they're playing, and I kept saying I really liked it because of the music. That's the same music that we hear as they're falling
Oh,
off the
wow.
ledge. So the emotional beat for me was knowing falling off the ledge music. So when I see Asylum and I'm hearing that music, I don't care what they're saying to each other because
Yeah.
I know what's coming.
Hmm.
Yeah, but you have to care what people are saying to each other. That argument does not wash for me at
My
all.
reality,
That just doesn't work. Right.
my reality, my rule.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, your rules. But
Yeah.
I hear Nicole Maz's voice in my head because she is very often the one to wave a flag, to throw a flag on the field about things like this. Um, how do we feel about it being okay that this couple commits suicide in this show?
Mm, yeah, that was a lot.
Hmm.
It shows the amount of sacrifice there, obviously, but yeah, it's still weird to see. It's weird to see in Doctor Who that they're sacrificing themselves like this.
Hmm.
Um, although the scene was excellent and the words said were excellent, it did make me feel funny as I saw them go through with this.
And because the words are so beautiful, um, if you were vulnerable in that way, wouldn't you say, "My God, he's right. This is the way to deal with what life is throwing at you."
Yeah,
Um,
if I have to spend my life in that room,
right.
the
Yeah.
reality
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
I don't want,
Right.
this is what I'm willing to do.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's the problem with writing drama, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 You never want to give somebody a reason to say, yeah, harming myself is a great idea. Um,
So let me ask Shannon this. The fact that it was a
she doesn't write
paradox
drama.
and it didn't happen,
Yeah.
does that negate what happened?
Uh, unfortunately, I think the people who we are concerned about would not necessarily make that connection. I think again we're just making death look like a way out,
Yeah.
and I think that is problematic. And I don't know if this one. There was an episode once where they ended with the suicide hotline. You guys talked about it on the show one time that you were very pleased that they ended the episode with
Oh yeah.
the
Oh,
number
yeah,
of the
that was
suicide
in
hotline.
series 11 or 12, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I still think that would be a very good idea here. I think the fact that it is a paradox and we know pretty much that they're going to be okay, I don't know that negates much. The part that got me, that killed me, was when he goes to take her hands, he takes one hand and puts it here.
Yeah.
And you think it's on his heart,
Yeah.
and it's very sweet, and then he says, "I'm going to need some help," and you realize he wants her to push.
Push.
And it's
Man.
like,
Yeah.
that's very
Right.
different. That's a
Yes.
different ask.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Let me do this versus help me
Help
do
me do
this.
this.
That's a very different ask.
And that makes the question that the guys just asked so much more. Whatever more is, it makes it so much more.
Right. I mean, it makes it clear that he doesn't want to die, that this is not a choice he's making because it's his preference. It's a choice
That's
he's making
true.
because it's the only option,
Hmm.
or at least that's the way he perceives it. But
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes it better or worse or indifferent.
No, I think it
Yeah,
makes it much more. And again,
It
I
makes
don't
it
know what
more.
more is.
right.
You know,
More
more I
what?
think
Yeah.
is open to interpretation, but more.
Well, I'll
Wow.
change the subject to something happier. Than as uh, as a Sherlock Holmes fan, I was tickled to note Moffat being a Sherlockian. He makes sure that one of the chapters in the Melody's book is called "The Dying Detective," which is one of the Sherlock Holmes stories. And when they go to China, they arrive at the year that Emperor Qin came to power, the year 221
B.
BC.
That was cool.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
speaking of the book, the
yes,
doctor doesn't like endings. And River specifically says, never let him see you age. And
yeah,
Clarence, I mean, not Clarence, Lee, we've made reference to me not liking endings. You know, I don't watch certain last episodes of things so that I have something in the box that I can refer back to. What do you think is the reason the doctor doesn't like endings?
I don't know, and I've been thinking about this a lot. That, um, yeah, at the risk of getting too heavy again, like we weren't just talking about suicide a minute ago. I I'm at a place in my life, and the details are not necessary, where I'm thinking about losing someone close to me. I think about it a lot, and going through that process is important. Well, we just had the anniversary, the 39th anniversary, for God's sake, of Wrath of Khan. So I watched that again. And of course, that has spoilers for a 39-year-old movie, the death of Mr. Spock, and an ending with Captain Kirk saying, I feel young," because he's finally done it. He's finally faced death instead of playing around with it the way he always has in the past. And I think part of what that movie says, and part of what I'm trying to take into my own life right now, is that endings are important. They're good. Um, but I also understand why the doctor doesn't want them.
And
Um,
don't you think that for, a 990 whatever he is time traveler, he's probably seen more than his share of them?
yeah,
I think
yeah.
maybe he's just sort of maxed out
He's
on
got good
on
reason to
endings.
not like him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, maybe when he says he doesn't like them, it doesn't mean that he can't.
All right.
But
And I think we learn later that the doctor learns to accept that in one of his later incarnations because he
hmm,
says something to the effect at some point, everything ends and it is sad, but then
that's true.
everything begins again and it's happy. Be happy.
That's
You know.
true.
So
Yeah, that does sound like growth of the character, um, or at least a
yeah.
different character.
It may have taken about 1100 years to get there, but hey,
Yeah, but
he eventually gets there.
but it's a big one.
No.
Yeah, I don't know, but I would certainly never tear the last page out of a book.
But before we get real quick, before we get to the last page, my question to you guys is Amy's farewell. Clarence, we get back into the graveyard. Everything is hunky dory. Let's go to the pub. Does it have video games? I love video games. Thoughts? What did you think of that scene?
Oh man. Um, you can see it all on the doctor's face in that moment. And what I loved about it is that River knew what the right decision was.
Hmm.
Although we knew
Yeah.
it would pain the doctor, we had this other voice of reason over here saying, let her go. Hey, let her go be with her guy. Not a death sentence in this case, but going to live out the rest of her life with the man she loves. And it's painful for the doctor, of course, but I just love the fact that River was there egging her on. even though we knew it would hurt the doctor. And that's it had to happen. It had to happen. And I don't know. I guess I was a bit more happy about Amy leaving than I think Rory's, eventually turning and zapping away is a bit sadder to me because it was all of a sudden. But we got to see Amy actually talk it out, and especially when we get to the last page and we get some last words from her as well. So I thought it played out perfectly.
All right, so Shannon, the motivations behind the doctor, let's take it the other direction. Where do you think the doctor's mind was? What was his motivation for being the opposite of what River's saying is, she asked, the angel, it will take me back to the same place with Rory. And, he says, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And, he's like, come back into the TARDIS, come along pond, trying to, pull her back in. Motivation, thought.
Just not ready to see that end, I think. And I mean, they have for some number of episodes been pulling back from him a little bit, right? And I think he's already started to feel how much pain this is going to cause. He already has some inkling of the depth of the pain this is going to cause, losing them both. I thought it was interesting that when the two of them jump off the building, he calls Amy's name but never calls Rory's.
Yeah.
And
Didn't notice that.
Yeah, and I always feel so bad for Rory. It's like, oh, he died again, he'll be back, right? But
He's used to it.
yeah. So while he is, I think, sad to see Rory go. Rory is, I don't know, in some ways convenient for the doctor. I'm not entirely sure what their relationship, how deep it goes, but he genuinely loves Amy and has loved her since she was a little girl. And I think he's just not ready to see that end, particularly in a way that is brutal and sudden and sharp. Like, I think the way that ending happens with Rory just suddenly disappearing is amazing. Like, that is so brilliantly done.
Yeah.
I remember just barking like a dog, when you got so, what the hell just happened there? And then when she turns and says goodbye and then she disappears, it's just breathtakingly good writing and good storytelling, I think.
Yes.
All right, Lee, what say ye?
What was the question again?
The Amy scene, the goodbye scene with Amy. Any thoughts?
Doctor's motivation.
And the doctor's motivation. Yes.
Well, it's a terrible. From a script writing point of view, it's completely brilliant. I think to put her in the position of literally being between where Roy just went and where the doctor is behind her, and she's looking where Rory was, and the doctor saying, "Come back. You have to just take my hand, and we will just go away." And that's what she's always done in the past. But she can't do that. And so she knows she has to make up her mind then and there. This is the end. Goodbye, Raggedy Man.
Mm-hmm. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's just terrific.
Do not make me cry.
Yeah. While you guys were talking, I was going back and pulling out my quote from The Power of Three. And we keep talking about, Shannon, I think, I'm not sure which one of you just mentioned that the doctor didn't even mention Rory's name. Mm-hmm. He didn't call it. Here's what the doctor says in the previous episode to Amy. She asked, "Why do you keep coming back?" And he says, "Because you were the first face this face saw. And you were seared onto my heart, Amelia Pond. I'm running to you and Rory before you fade from me."
Yeah.
It's just like, wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's lived a lot of lives, but as far as this one knows, it's all about Amy.
Yeah. From the very beginning, the 11th hour. So.
Fish sticks and custard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, additionally, we got the foreshadowing of the chapter that the doctor read I think it said Amelia's Farewell, may have been the name of it. So this whole episode, I think that last scene was like the culmination of this entire episode. He's been thinking, fixed point. We've read it. Maybe we can change it. Then we have River faking the broken hand, and
Yeah.
he saw it coming the whole way, and he was fighting to avoid the inevitable. And that's another thing that made that last scene really heartbreaking as well.
So to step out and go meta for a second, do you know about the Easter egg that's on this tombstone?
No, but I know an Easter egg for the 11th hour that I'll say. But Easter egg for the 11th, I mean for the tombstone. Tell me.
It says that Rory lived to be 82 and that Amelia lived to be 87.
7, yeah.
The actors were born in 1982.
And 87. Awesome. Awesome.
Wow.
Wow.
So let me say this real quick, and I'm going to say it quickly because I don't want to get emotional. The comment that she says that Amy says to River about you be a good girl, that had a little bit of an extra for me because that is
Should we come back to you and you?
no, I can do it. My grandmother, that's the last thing she said to me.
Wow.
Was you be a good boy.
Yeah.
So
Not you be a good girl, but
no, a different regeneration. Yeah. But yeah, but the last time I saw her, and like she died 2 days later, but the last thing she said to me was, "You be a good boy." So
well,
whenever
and it's
I
always
heard
been
that,
so interesting with Amy and River because their apparent ages make it appear that River is mom and
of course,
Yeah.
yes.
Amy's the daughter, and it's the other way around. So yeah, I thought it's a huge moment in their story where either of them says to the other, "You be a good girl."
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
All right, so the 11th hour. Let's take it a different, lighter tone here for a second. The 11th hour. I mentioned that there was something hidden in the 11th hour. Does anybody know what?
What is
No.
the 11th hour?
The first episode of Matt Smith
Oh, okay. Sorry.
that Amy was introduced. Does anybody know what it is? If not, I've been waiting since we reviewed the 11th hour to tell you.
I think I know what you're talking about, but do tell.
All right, tell me what. No. Tell me what you think.
Are you talking about when the doctor goes back to see Amelia?
At the end, yes.
Yeah.
The scene that is in the very end where we see, and this is how it ends. You know, this is the story of Amelia Pond, and this is how it ends. That scene is right after. It is also shown 55 minutes and 43 seconds into the 11th hour. It is after he's met small Amelia, and even after he has had the Atraxi go away and he's gone to the TARDIS and he's about to go pick up Amy. And then they all of a sudden, for about 4 seconds, they show the scene that they showed at the end of this episode.
Oh, wow.
So, and Moffat is, and I found the quote, after showing Amelia Pond in the garden as a young girl in the 11th hour, Karen's first episode, the final shot in Saturday's The Angels Take Manhattan is a punchline I have been waiting to tell for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Nice.
So here's the question. Does this episode change the way we see Amy? And what I mean by that is if he goes back and tells Amelia all the things that we know he tells Amelia, does she not go into everything, even having a back of her subconscious memory of all the things that are going to happen?
Amy urges him to go back and tell her stories.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I wondered that too. If he actually does that, doesn't that change the future?
Or did she know all along and just never said?
Or is she just an 8-year-old girl who hears a bunch of stories?
Yeah,
Maybe
Draws
so.
on the
that's why she.
wall.
That's why she's biting her psychiatrist and so on.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, that's why she was so impatient. If somebody comes and tells me you've got a ton of adventures waiting for you, and then I have to wait till whenever, like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Let's go.
And remember, it's very important that when you finally see him, hit him with a cricket bat. That's
Literally.
part of the story.
Right.
Oh man.
Can't make that not happen.
All right.
I've got a big question about this episode that I really want to ask if we got time. If we
Please,
could
absolutely.
talk about it. When River gets herself out of the deadlock with the weeping angel, she says she's okay. She figured out a way out of it. She lies because she doesn't want to hold anybody up, and she doesn't want to. She wants to demonstrate, if I'm understanding this right, that we're not stuck to what's in the book. Right?
Right.
Her wrist did not have to get broken, but she's lying. She did break her own wrist. And when the Doctor learns this, he demonstrates that he has the superpower that I've always wanted. You know, people always ask, would you want to be invisible or fly? No, what I'd want to be able to heal people with a touch. That's the superpower I'd want. Well, he fixes her wrist, and she's angry with him.
You embarrass me, as Shannon said.
And I feel like this is something, I feel like I need the help of someone who understands a woman's point of view. So for once, I can really do that. Clarence, can you explain?
Knew you were going to do that.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry.
I was going to do it if you didn't.
that
So.
was low-hanging fruit, but yeah.
Clarence?
No. No, seriously, Shannon, is it? I honestly don't get it. What? And Amy sides with River. She says, "Stick to the science." I don't understand what he did that was wrong.
Well-
That's what I would have done, and apparently I would have been wrong.
Well, doesn't he have a finite amount of regeneration energy?
So did she.
Yeah, but
She did
Bodies
the same
heal.
thing. She did the same thing.
right.
Well, I would take it one step further to say
She's
she
not
did
doctor.
more.
Yes, she did. I think she gave them all up.
Yes.
Yeah, but the world needs the Doctor. Right? The universe needs the Doctor. Pretty much at all costs,
I'll buy that.
right? And
Have they
and-
talked about this though? By now, doesn't she know that he's out?
Spoilers. Now I'm just saying that's what
That's a
she
good
was saying.
question.
I don't know.
You would
Yeah, I
say
was gonna say
spoiler.
maybe that's a spoiler that he doesn't share. I don't know. Or maybe she knows that that's not really gonna happen that way.
But she says you embarrass me.
Because he was being sentimental rather than logical. He made a decision based on emotion rather than logic, and that's, the Doctor's not supposed to do.
Or she's just said that to say, you said that to me. Now look, here I get
Or
an
to
opportunity
get her own
to say
back.
it to you.
Yeah.
I know he deserves it, to getting it back
Yes.
again. But
Yeah.
if I had a crisis going on like the Angels taking Manhattan, and I had this walking, talking, fighting force like River Song, I'd want her wrist to be fixed.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that's logical. I
Yeah.
just so
Especially
but-
it's the right hand, so
There you
exactly, yeah.
dominant hand.
And she slaps him with it. I don't understand.
Yeah, I read that is that she was mad or upset that she couldn't
Change.
sustain the illusion of giving him hope.
go. Ooh.
That's interesting.
So I felt that that's the only reason she was mad after he healed her, is that she was faking it to give him hope that whatever is going to happen to Amy is not going to happen, and she was mad about that.
I like that.
Slap
That
means
makes a lot of sense.
you blew it for me.
Yeah.
I had this figured out, and you blew it for me.
Yeah. I kind of like that.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I. There you go. I'll take that.
All right. So, as we're, going to run out of time here, literally, let's just say that we're getting to the, you ready for it? Last page. So, questions. What did you guys think of this page? And if anybody wants to read it, I'll be glad to, because, I like things. So, Any thoughts on the last page? That scene?
It's a great gift. It's a note that you find from a loved one. It's the voice message you find on your phone that you forgot was there. It's good closure for the Doctor.
Yeah, especially since he knows they did find each other, and there was a risk that they would miss each other, and that her trip back would be in vain. Yeah, so.
Yeah. But how interesting when he deliberately did that, because he said he doesn't like endings, and then he scrambles for it to find out what the ending was.
Because that ending was important to him. Literally, it was important. So,
and I promise I'm not changing the subject, but I think it's great because the whole episode has, I noticed this time, been full of sort of greatest hits. It's and you get the feeling that we're wrapping it up, that we're summing up the season so far. There's River Song with her vortex manipulator. There's the whole psychic paper routine in a foreign culture. There's the phrase timey wimey. There's Rory being chased around by something in the dark. There's the visual effect of a language being translated by the TARDIS. There's an old foe being tortured by his captor, just like the Dalek that the Ninth Doctor first saw. There's a bit of dialogue that sets somebody up to say, in all innocence, Doctor Who. You just feel like, oh, this is almost like this is going to be the last episode of the series. I mean, And then he's going to go read that last page that he tore out of the book.
So let me say that The Angels Take Manhattan was the last televised live-action story to feature Matt Smith dressed in the 11th Doctor's brown tweed jacket. It would also be the last time we would see the title sequence as it is seen from the Matt Smith era like this. So that this is a couple of last things that happen in this episode in addition to that. So you're right. It was the end of an era because, we have clarity coming in our next episode.
Osmond?
Yeah. So let's get to favorite quote or favorite scene. To me, they're the same thing. But favorite quote. Ladies first. Shannon, favorite quote.
Clarence. I can't decide. I have lots. I loved the sort of noir beginning where the guy says, New York, the city of a million stories. Half of them are true. The other half just haven't happened yet. I love that. And then something about Mr. Grail was the scariest man I knew. If something scared him, I kind of wanted to shake its hand. I love that. And then my third choice.
Pure
No,
Raymond
I'll
Chandler.
let you guys go first, and then if nobody says it, I'll do my third.
All right. Clarence, what's yours?
So when the Doctor finally makes it to where River is, he says, "Sorry I'm late, honey. Traffic was hell."
That was great.
So good. So good.
Especially after we've seen that really cool effect of the TARDIS hitting 1938 and bouncing off.
Yeah.
Lee?
My favorite line in this episode, hands down and bar none, is, yes, the wrist is pretty bad too.
All right. So I'll make this quick, but bear with me, and I am not reading my notes. Okay? So just saying that ahead of time.
'Cause you know it by heart.
Yes. All right, here we go. Afterward by Amelia Williams. Hello, old friend, and here we are, you and me, together again on the last page. By the time you read these words, Rory and I will be long gone, but know that we lived well and that we were very happy, and above all else, we shall love you always. Oh, crap, I can't believe I don't know this. Okay. But sometimes I do worry about you, though. I worry that after you're gone, you won't be coming back here for a while, and that you should be alone, for which you should never be. Don't be alone, Doctor. And do one more thing for me. There's a little girl waiting in a garden. She'll be waiting a long while, and she'll need a lot of hope. Go to her. Tell her a story. Tell her that if she's patient, the days will come that she will never forget. Tell her that she will go to sea and fight pirates. She'll fall in love with a man who will wait 2,000 years just to keep her safe and save a whale in outer space and give hope to the greatest painter who ever lives, or something like that. Tell her this is the story of Amelia Pond, and this is how it ends. Almost got it.
That was lovely.
You got it.
Woohoo. I can do that whenever I'm not like on point, but
Right.
anyway.
When you're in your shower.
Can I do my third
exactly.
one?
Yes, please
Yeah,
do.
we need your runner-up.
This is the runner-up. You think you'll just come back to life? When don't I?
Oh, go one.
We'd have been disappointed if he hadn't said that.
Right?
Favorite scene? Shannon Perry. Favorite scene?
Oh man, so many things, but I think actually the jump scene with all of its problems and with the grimacing Statue of Liberty in the back, just the conversation between Rory and Amy, I think is really quite wonderful.
Awesome. Clarence Brown.
In addition to that scene that Shannon just mentioned, I also really love the scene of the TARDIS very chaotically entering Grill's mansion. I just loved how it eventually got there. You know?
Yeah.
Bam, bang, crack.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my favorite scene is the one that immediately follows, because I always love the flirting banter with the Doctor and Professor River Song.
Right.
Thank you very much. And just this, yeah, that's a great scene that the two of them get to play. So
Awesome. So
it
my
ends
favorite.
with him kissing her on the cheek, which he's never did before. So cute.
So my favorite scene was, of course, the Raggedy Man goodbye, specifically that scene. I just thought it was awesome. Awesome. So final rating, I will start. I'm going to give it, you know what? I'm going to give something that I've never given before. I'm going to give it a 5.5. 5 Raggedy Man goodbyes, 0.5 for Lee liking it and making me happy that he liked it. So there I am, 5.5. Shannon Perry, what say you?
5 noir novels out of 5.
Awesome. Clarence Brown, what say you?
5 time paradoxes out of 5.
Ooh, good one.
I think we're pretty consistent in our rating. Mine is 5 yowzas out of 5.
Yowza. Oh, don't say yowza. So says Amy. Awesome. All right. So, gentlemen and lady, we are at the closing. For everyone watching or listening, thank you. We've enjoyed it. So, closing, and I will ask you guys to tell me something that you are watching or reading that you would like to share with the listeners. And Lee, I've been calling on you last, it seems, so I'm going to call on you first. Something you're watching or reading that you would like to share.
I know I'm going to butcher the name of it, but my wife and I have discovered apparently Denmark's most popular TV series. In the U.S., in in English, it's called Seaside Hotel, and I was going to try to say it in Danish, but I can't. But anyway, if you don't mind watching a show that's in a foreign language, and reading the subtitles in English, we're just entranced by it. Not everybody's cup of tea, but it is a domestic drama. It is it's sort of Downton Abbey light. Anyway, I'm just, yeah, I think about it all the time now. Seaside Hotel.
Seaside Hotel. All right. Clarence Brown, what about you?
Oh man, I don't know if I've been watching or reading much of anything lately other than tech documents for work.
Technical journals. Don't you ever relax?
Yeah, well, you know,
I am relaxing.
this is good reading. No, I'll just say I really don't have a recommendation on that, but I am looking forward to watching Cobra Kai, which everybody is telling me is fantastic. So hopefully I have something to report back on that soon, because that's what's next on my bucket list to dive into, Cobra Kai on Netflix.
All right. Shannon, what about you?
Lately I've been going back and rewatching and watching some of the stuff for the first time that I apparently missed. The show Hustle.
Okay.
Not the greatest of sexual politics where the female character is concerned, but it is a fun show, and it's light and very funny, and I enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, I don't really know what I'm watching lately. I feel like I'm watching so much, but I will say that I am actually looking forward to the first episode of Loki from Disney Plus. I think it comes out tomorrow. So as of this recording, I'm sure it will have been out by the time this goes out. But yeah, Loki. So that is what I am looking forward to. So for everyone listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, however medium you got us. And I just hit my mic. But anyway, I say this is the end of the episode, and this is the story of how it ends. Woohoo.
Awesome.
Cool. That was deep and fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.